All right. Well, welcome everyone to the Motyv podcast. My name is Shayden Bertinoli. I'm your host, and this is part 2 for Eric Thompson being with us. So, Eric, thanks for being here.
Yeah, it was fun last time. Thanks for having me back, Shane.
Of course. If you haven't listened to that one, go. I mean, we're not like carrying over. It's all fresh topics and stuff. But we just got done. Well, I thought I was going to carry you up the stairs, but you did it. 3 flights of stairs.
Yeah,
so.
the elevator was broken, and I haven't gone up more than 3 steps in a lot of months. So
You just did 3 flights, man.
yeah, you and Sky basically dragged me up. So
That's awesome.
That was good. I felt good that I can get in a press box again. I practiced today. So
Do you? Oh, cool. That's awesome, man. Well, I want to first off maybe just check in with how you been. Tell us how you've been, and I think people are following your story quite a bit, and just it's been a few weeks since you and I chatted too. So how's your voice? How's your body? How you doing?
yeah, I mean, I feel like the voice, it just gets tired a lot easier than it used to. So kind of save it a little bit. I don't like how I sound, when I listen back to these things, because
Yeah.
I don't have quite the same, ability to project anymore. But, doing good. The legs have gotten weaker noticeably in the last, 3 weeks to a month. Being able to just get out of a chair on my own, or, walk to the restroom and back, is now I kind of have to have someone kind of be around, because I might catch my toe or whatnot. But so we do a lot in that wheelchair now. Not that I can't walk, but it's just too dangerous now to. I don't know. The doctor at the U of U have been pretty strict with me, saying you need to quit doing what you're doing. Like if you fall, your ability for your neck to support your head, you could snap your neck or have a bad brain bleed, or break a hip or something, and then you'd be really set back. So
Yeah.
So that's been kind of rough trying to be, so
Yeah.
I guess
Like how you doing with that?
relying upon other people to have you do just even more things. But it's like morning process. I get pissed and swear a bunch in my head and try to do it myself, and then can't do it, and then you ask for help, and then you have to kind of realize, man, this is my new reality, and you kind of humble yourself, and you eventually you mourn for a while, and then you accept it, and you move on. So
Yeah. Do you feel like you're getting better at that?
yeah, I mean, in the past I probably held on longer and was angry longer and mourned it longer, and now it's, well, when you've done this 50 times with all these different things, it's kind of, oh yeah, like this is the next step. This one really hurt because it was kind of the last real autonomy that I felt I had. But what can you do?
Yeah.
So.
Well, hey man, I got some questions for you. Did you see him?
Yeah, I kind of looked at him on
Okay.
the drive over, so hopefully I can. Hopefully we can have a good dialogue, and if anything, I know it helped me, so hopefully it's helping someone else too.
Yeah. So a huge part of my mission is to help liberate men, and I know I've shared that with you before, and I think that liberation is a combination of both having a powerful hope and having a powerful self-compassion, or I should say just compassion in general. So in other words, we can have a powerful hope for where we want to go in life, but if we always are doing it through an energy of shame and just self-hate, we're just going to drive ourselves into burnout. On the other side, we could have a lot of compassion for ourselves and really like ourselves, but if we don't really have a goal for where we want to go as a man and who we want to be, we'll just really become quite idle and stagnant and kind of just drift around. And so both of those laws for me, compassion and hope, are massively important into helping guys truly liberate their lives. So I sent you a couple of those questions. Yeah. And so the first one I want to ask is, how has your diagnosis of ALS changed how compassionate you are on yourself and others?
Yeah, I think we got into that a little bit last time, but I think that's had a huge impact. And I felt that before. I was pretty, I don't know the right word, but one of the traits I was born with that I feel I've always kind of been in tune with how someone else is feeling or thinking, and I tried to show empathy towards them. And maybe one of the things I was decently good at is I could maybe connect with players because of that.
Yeah.
But I think with my own self, I was maybe not as in tune as I needed to be. You get kind of just wake up and you're going through the motions, and you're trying to, be successful and get through the day, and what are the
Yeah.
things I got to get done today. Um, so, sometimes, my personality trait is like when I'm not doing well or I'm messing up, or you kind of realize, hey, I could be doing better. Maybe like I feel bad about that, maybe a little longer than I should. That can affect your self-esteem. And then I just would say, in general, my overall awareness of other people is certainly heightened,
How's it?
and my empathy for others is, a lot more than it used to be. I would say before it was, well, within my little world, my football team,
Mm-hmm.
my wife, my kids, my family, I was maybe try to be pretty aware and empathetic towards those. But maybe outside of that world, my head was down and I had some blinders on, and I was, not as noticing as I could be and not as empathetic as I could be. So, certainly, Sky and I talk about it now, we didn't even think about wheelchair accessibility or handicap parking spots or looking out for people that are,
Mm.
struggling with this. And now everywhere we go, we got to plan it out to the
Mm.
last detail, and we're very aware of those who are being, notice us and showing empathy towards us and helping us out. And conversely, I think I'm a lot more, I think just aware in general of the people around me, how they're feeling, and outside of just, work or school or whatever it is, that, how they're doing in their life, and, ask more questions. And because I know what it's like to really be, feel alone, to feel sad, to feel, helpless. I think I mentioned last time that, I was blessed with a state of mind, a personality trait where I was very optimistic and couldn't wait for the next day. And I couldn't remember any time in my life being depressed more than 24 hours. And that would have to do with something that maybe I wanted to happen that didn't, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe I failed at something I wanted, to do, or I didn't do as well as I wanted. But I was on and I was moving on the next day. And I really didn't get and understand people that really struggle with some mental health issues, that
Yeah.
really struggle with anxiety and depression and self-worth and that kind of stuff. And, this disease, as much as it attacks you physically, like it's chipping away at your, your self-worth and your how you feel about yourself, every day, all the time. So now that I'm so much more aware of how, like I'm feeling, and how grateful I am when, someone helps me get out of that, or that I find a tool or a way to, steer my mind in another direction so that I don't go into a dark place. I feel I'm much more empathetic towards others who are struggling with that, and also look for opportunities to maybe, share, how I'm doing it, or
Yeah.
just be there, for them, just be at least someone that they can, talk to, and that they
Yeah.
feel. Um,
I got a question for you.
yeah.
So, and this is pretty, if you don't want to answer it, I get it, but it's kind of deep, if you will, or I guess vulnerable. But um, is there a moment in your life before your diagnosis, and I could, at any time, like from boyhood on, where you can see that moment, and how much shame, how much self hate, how much like yeah, just shame and self hate you put on yourself, and like now that you know what you know, having gone through what you've gone through, what would you do differently?
Yeah, that is a strange question.
Because that's what men are up against. Men's pasts,
Yeah,
they're so they have we have these memories of like, but I did that, and it's so easy to let that thing that we did be like this, not even just a scar, but like a constant, like a defining piece of us, as
yeah,
opposed to like, and when men can step out and actually see themselves from a compassionate eye, that's what start that actually helps heal a ton. So that's where that question's coming from.
yeah. I think of, if you took yourself out of the moment and you were a friend advising yourself about the mistake you made,
Yeah.
you would probably be a lot more sympathetic and understanding and encouraging to your own self than you are to yourself. So to me, that's the first thing that I would do is like, hey, if whatever mistake or shame you have in the past, if you went to your best friend who really loved you and, cared about you, and told them that and asked for advice, that same advice they would give you, maybe you should be giving yourself, instead of, beating yourself up about it so much. But I mean, really, that's what life's about. Um, and I think that we get so caught up maybe sometimes in the past. The past you can do nothing about. I think that really is freeing to lack of a better word, like if you're a religious person, like you repent, that you really felt sorry for what you did, like it was real, like you really, it's not just, oh, I'm sad I got caught, or I'm sad that things turned out this way, but you really feel like, man, that was a mistake. I'm ashamed of myself. I can't believe I did that. I want to be better. And then whatever you can do to make maybe people that you hurt, you try to make it better with. And then I think at that point you just got to move on, and you don't.
Yeah.
The only time you think about it again is as some sort of reminder or warning to, like, hey, don't go down that road, or
Yeah.
obviously to learn from those lessons. And I think that's difficult for men to maybe really forgive themselves,
Yeah.
and move on, and hope that the person you offended forgives you too. But you can't really control that, and I think that sometimes is difficult as well.
For sure.
Is there's so many uncontrollable variables there, but you know
Your sister, yes, I think it was your sister just yesterday. She said her, and it was quoted actually in the state conference afterward. But she said, we need to get busy spending time loving Christ rather than wasting time hating ourselves.
yeah,
That's what you're saying. It's like, because when we talk about moving on, I think a lot of men wonder, well, moving on to what? And it's easy to forget that life in service is life with meaning. And I think as you've gone through your stuff, that's a big part that you've taught me. It's what my dad taught me in his own suffering, is that if I sit here and only wait to be served, which he didn't do, and I know you don't do, but if I wait here basically to die, it's, what the heck? But service, actually using whatever I can, using my voice on a podcast to try to serve and help somebody else, that's how we actually move on. But I think so many men resist moving on because we have this entrapment of punishment. We often believe that we have to punish ourselves to the nth degree for the mistake we make, and then the bad part is we don't know when we've actually finished that punishment.
yeah. In fact, I think in most people I think in all people, there's, whether it's a whole or there's a part of us that really needs connection and wants to feel hope and wants to feel
Yeah,
you know seen and loved and heard and appreciated. And when we do something, we mess up, and we kind of have this bad feeling inside that often can lead to things, you know, damaging things that are going to take that place. Whether
yeah,
it's drugs or alcohol, or pornography, or a bad relationship, or food, or what, it could even be a good thing like exercise, or
true.
lose yourself in work. But all of a sudden now, hey, I'm feeling better about myself because this short, you know, this temporary thing is filling up that inside. And I think it's really important that we avoid those things and really have that. I think the word you use there is hope. If you have that hope, okay, I'm going to be better tomorrow.
Yeah,
I know in my case, and it's a little different than what you're talking about, but I used to get very down and depressed because the truth about ALS is that today, right now, is the strongest that I will be in the rest of my life. So to know that tomorrow I will be weaker, and that I'll have more pain, and I'll have more suffering, and the next day I'll be more, and the next day I'll be more, and the next day I'll be more. Well, it's hard to have this hope for the future when it's only going to get worse. And so even though it's different with me because it's physical and mental pain that's coming from a disease, I can see how men get trapped
yeah,
in thinking that way, because I have my days that I think that way. So,
sure. So
you
let me
know,
ask you this. Can I cut you off? Sorry.
yeah.
So what's your hope?
So, a lot of things obviously play into that. But I've started trying to think of things opposite. Because I can go back now, whatever, a month ago, I could get myself out of my own chair and walk to the restroom and go to the bathroom. And now I can't. So
Mm,
right now I get caught in thinking, man, I sure miss when I could do that for myself.
okay.
So instead of missing that I can do that for myself, I can think today. Sorry.
You good, man?
like think of all the things that I can still do. And there's going to be a day in the future that I'm going to wish, man, I wish I could walk up those stairs with Shayden Sky dragging me and come to a podcast. Because there's going to come to a day when I can't. And so there's going to be a day in the future that I'm going to long for this day and really appreciate and love this day. So just really learning to appreciate and, you know, live in the moment. And whatever this day brings, there's going to be some good in it. And, you know, really be appreciative of
Yeah.
that and live in the moment. And so to me, that's kind of where my hope, some of my hope, not all my hope lies now, is that, things are going to only get worse. Live in the moment and be grateful for what you can still do. And, maybe that's not exactly what you're, talking about. But, one of the greatest lessons that I've learned is that your mind is going to try to go to bad places. And you can't just haphazardly let your mind go wherever the hell it wants to go.
Yeah.
When you're feeling that hole inside and you're feeling empty or sad or lonely for whatever reason, whether it's disease or a mistake you made or fear of the future, whatever's causing that anguish inside, that you do have the capability of steering your mind to positive things.
Yeah.
Finding things that take your mind off it, finding things that are positive that you can engage yourself with. So, like right now, I fight, boredom like you can't believe. I wake up in the morning, and that's why I really look forward to doing these type of things, not only for to help other people, but to give me something to do and something to look forward to. There's nothing like, waking up and you have nothing to do all day. You can sit there and only watch, Netflix and listen to podcasts or church talks or read or so much, and then the rest of the days starts to get, you start to kind of dread that next day, and your mind starts to go to dark places. So that's one thing that I still struggle with, but I'm proud that I'm learning to, like, hey, like, you're in charge of your mind, you're in charge of how you feel about things. You can, if you start to think about something that you don't want to think about, you can choose to think about something else. You can steer it other places, and maybe having some tools, having some, sometimes you just gotta ask for help. Like my wife, sometimes I, hey babe, like I need to check in. I need to have like a day where we just connect and we, don't watch TV and we're not on our phones and we talk about our kids and we take a, like 3-4 hours where we're just checking in with one another and talking about where we're at right now, what can we do, and having a person that you can do that with, I think helps. And then just, sometimes it is just that old fashioned grit of like, hey, I'm not going to let myself go down this road. Whatever. I'm going to, read this article. I'm going to find something positive, to do to maybe take my mind off something that is negative.
I'm over here thinking, I think you just taught me something I've never thought of before. Cause I'm in my head thinking Eric's hope is like not in the future. And I know, take that slowly, right? I think philosophically, right, and doctrinally, a lot of the time it's like hope is something that's usually used forward, if you will, or it's like, I think it's really easy to think that hope is something in the future. You hope for something in the future. And I'm not saying that's correct, actually, but I'm just challenging it right now. Like I've never thought of that. And I think my dad probably was, when I was on my mission, he'd write me letters a lot, and then we'd call once a month. But yeah, I mean, he would tell me, the moment I lose track of this day in my head is the moment I implode. And that's, he said, so his mindset was just the day. And could I keep my hope? He never said it, but what I'm hearing you say is you've had to go, because tomorrow's going to be harder, or I think a lot of us hope that tomorrow will be easier.
Yeah.
We hope that tomorrow will be better.
And that was the mindset I always had.
And you've had to change that.
I think,
but that's been liberating.
When I really hit, when I would really hit rock bottom with how I was feeling, it was, I could tell I was getting so caught up in, I'm used to the future's going to bring me hope. and I know the future
That's
is
so
going to be
powerful.
harder. So how do I deal with that? You know,
You give it up, but
and
not in
and,
a hopeless way.
and it's not totally like, my wife and I, we talk about these things that I need to have. Like, I kind of go day to day. Like, well, I know Tuesday nights, my son Kel will play basketball. I look forward to that. Wednesday night, Monday night, my son Kyra plays. Wednesday night, my son,
Yeah.
Jack will play. So I have kind of things throughout. Oh, hey, this Saturday we're going to go to a comedy show. Or, hey, this Thursday we have a thing with the family. So I'll have a handful of things that I just kind of keep, you know, day to day. Hey, well, tomorrow I have this thing to look forward to. But in the big picture, I have more pain and suffering to also have. And so trying to have that balance of, okay, I have a few things in the future that I'm looking forward to that keeps me going and what gets me want to get out of bed and have that hope that that I had beforehand. But then also realizing how important and special, you know, this day is, because, it's going to be worse.
Yeah.
And, if you have have a mindset, hey, this is really hard and I'm going through this hard thing, but I'll get through it and then it'll be better, is a pretty common mindset to have. And I think that's what happens with most people. And that's where ALS is so difficult, because every day is going to be, there's no, oh, a year from now I'm going to get through ALS and feel better. No, a year from
Yeah.
now I might not be able to walk at all anymore. I might not be able to speak.
Yeah.
You just know that it's going to go down this really difficult, hard, dark path. So, living right in
In the
the
moment.
present
Yeah.
and being in the moment has, really, that's one thing that this has really taught me. And in some
Well, the greatest.
strange ways, I'm happier because I'm doing that more now. Whereas before, I think as a normal person, you don't appreciate the day as much as you should. Oh, tomorrow's going to be a more
Yep.
important day, a better day, because this and that's happening. And I think trying to have that balance of being appreciative of the current day and still having some hope for the future and planning those together, I feel I'm happier now as a person, even though my suffering is greater.
Yeah. Because I'm putting that together of the most present hope we can have that my dad taught me too is connection. It's like that, and that's what you've learned too. It's like
Yeah.
I can be busy with circumstances. My hope can be in circumstance, and that I can rely on that letting me be happy, or I can change and allow my hope to be about connection, which can happen now because God is there to connect to. I am here to, like, you can connect with yourself, and that allows for that to happen. So that, and how beautiful that is, because that's what it's about. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
You know.
So maybe that'd be my advice to, if you're struggling, is, hey, I'm not just saying don't have hope in the future, because
Right.
I certainly do. And even at the end of this thing, when I'm gone, you know, I feel bad for the people who are going to still be here. They're going to be the ones that are sad. I'm going to be like zipping around and,
That's right, man.
flying around and running fast again and playing racquetball and going to all my kids' games and
Yep.
watching my wife and my family and my friends. And I know that at that point, I'll be happy. So I'm not really afraid of, death per se anymore, because in some ways it really will be, a relief. It'll
Yeah.
be a blessing. But, there's so many things I want to accomplish and do before then. Well, therein lies my hope of the future. But also I know that I've got a lot of pain and suffering that's coming. So learning to really be appreciative of this day
Yeah.
to go along with those three things
Yeah.
has helped me be, happier than I was before. So, wish I could go back in time and figure that out before, this happened.
That's why we're doing this.
But at the same time, I think it's important that if you just learned every lesson right away, you wouldn't have an appreciation for when you finally learned it.
Amen to that. So true.
So you got to
It's
kind
the
of go
pain.
through it.
Like wisdom's great, but
Yeah.
pain
Like,
really
I
teaches.
don't think you can get the wisdom and the true joy without the pain.
Yep.
So, if you got pain in your life right now, yeah, it sucks. But when you learn to deal with that and you find you're becoming a better person, because of it, and you've changed because of it, you're going to, in some weird way, be appreciative of that pain. So don't be so afraid of, pain and suffering. don't be so hard on yourself. Like, hey, what lesson can I learn from this? Yeah, so I made a mistake. I'm going to make it right with the people I can make it right. I'm going to, feel bad about it, and I'm going to forgive myself, and I'm going to move on, and I'm going to
Yeah.
live in the moment, and I'm going to look forward to the next day.
Yeah.
So,
I love that, man. Because the enemy to compassion is shame, and the ally to compassion is accountability, which
yeah,
is what you just said. Accountability is the other. In other words, learn from something, actually go through it and figure out what can I learn, which is account for the experience, and how much that can help. So, wow, that's powerful, dude. Sorry, you just got me thinking. Because I just realized, it's just so. I remember when my dad told me, like when he told us that he had ALS, and I shared it on the podcast last time. It was nearly, I mean, it's the hardest day of my life, but it was nearly a perfect day too. There was just so much perspective. It was just perfect perspective on all that mattered, and I'm sure you've gone through that too, where it's just, yeah, all that matters is family, relationships, and everything else starts to fall away. So, all right, man. Another question. That was awesome.
yeah, sure.
Okay. So, well, we could go to this one, but yeah, let's do it. I guess we kind of talked about it, but so compassion, as I study it in research too, compassion has three parts when you look at it. So compassion is, which compassion, by the way, just to make it very primary, compassion means to suffer with. And so self-compassion
Okay.
is to suffer with oneself. So passion, it means to suffer. The prefix com would be to suffer with. And so self-compassion is the ability to suffer with oneself in a kind and loving way. And so one of the measurements when you study compassion is how much do I give it to others? How much do I give it to myself? But the third little measurement that's interesting, especially for men, is letting yourself receive compassion. So giving it, showing it to yourself, but then letting yourself receive it from others. And I think how has
Yeah,
how
yeah,
has
that's
this
difficult for
impacted
men. Yeah.
from before and after too for you? How is like Eric Thompson's willingness to receive compassion in his 20s and 30s compared to Eric Thompson's willingness to receive compassion now? And Sky's over there sitting, she's watching, but I'm sure she could testify to some of that stuff too.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very difficult thing, I think, for probably most any person, and probably men, especially because we're taught we need to be, tough and strong and hide our feelings and be there for, and I think there's still a lot of value there. Kind of
Sure.
like as I talked about that old school grit, that
Yep.
like old school masculinity, that you don't want to go to work and you freaking get up and you go to work and you do hard things and you protect your family and your fears and you battle.
Yep.
That all those things are important, and we can still be that person and still, have compassion towards ourselves and allow others to give us compassion. In fact, one of the, I spoke about this recently. That it's, I think often too, what we do as men that I would do, I hold myself to a high standard. So I kind of hold others to a high standard. If I feel like someone should be trying harder and be all in and be giving a better effort and doing a better job, whether that's, teaching, coaching, friend, whatever, and they're not, then sometimes I feel maybe they're not deserving of my compassion and my love and my forgiveness because, like, they're not humble, they're not asking for it, they're making mistakes, they're being, an
Mm-hmm.
a-hole, whatever the case may be. And so, but how easy is it to forgive and show compassion to the people that you love, the people that are asking for it, the people that deserve it? So I think, that's a part of it as well, is not withholding your compassion because of any standards that you've
Yeah.
set that you think someone needs to, you know,
Get to
get to qualify for your empathy, that you just give it freely. And whether they take it in their life, whether they appreciate it, whether they, you know, do something with it, that's not really your job. Like,
yeah.
just give it. And, it's not only, and sometimes that's as much for you as it's for them.
Yeah.
And then, the second part you said about, accepting it, that really is, it really is difficult. I have to have most everything done for me, physically. In fact,
Mm-hmm.
when you called me up and were like, hey, the elevator's broke, I'm going to have to carry you up the stairs.
Yeah.
My first
Yeah, I was wondering how
When
you'd
we
react.
hang up and we're driving over here, I'm like, hell no, he ain't carrying me up the stairs. Like,
I
hey,
knew it.
I'm gonna try to walk him up, and then he's gonna, hold my arms and basically drag me. I'll basically move my feet because I'm not quite there to have that allowed to
Yeah,
be
I
done
was
for me.
wondering about that.
But at the same time, there's hundreds of things that people have to do for me now. That at one point I thought, heck no, I'm not gonna let them do that for me. So, my life is easier when I help others do something for me. So obviously, it helps me. Um, but I think it does a lot for the person who's helping, and we mentioned that a little bit last time. I think we forget sometimes that when we allow someone to help us, it's not just about us. It's us allowing someone to feel good about themselves, that they showed empathy, that they were there, that,
Yeah.
hey, yeah,
Because we're so in our heads. We're so about us. Like whether we want to admit it or not, it's so easy to have like an inner focus, a self, if you will, selfish focus, and that's what service allows us to for our brain to switch over. And I'm just here to say that's where peace is found. Even preparing for today, I have a lot that I want to do today. There's other podcasts I want to record too, and there's always this like performance anxiety if I'm not careful to think about what I want to say, what I want to do,
yeah,
and it can be even paralyzing to the point of avoidance and procrastination, and it's just ego because I'm focused on me. I'm focused on how I might be perceived or what I need to say correctly, and it's so, in President Nelson's words, myopic. Whereas in a focus of service, a focus of building men, of helping others, it frees it all because service is imperfect and nobody cares. If you bring me a meal to my house and it's imperfect, like who cares? Like thanks for bringing the meal, unless it's cat hair. That's another
yeah,
story. But you know what I mean? It's just
yeah.
it frees our
I honestly
mind.
really think that's the key to everything that
Everything.
we
It
have.
is. It really is.
You know, I'm guessing a lot of your listeners, maybe they're, I don't Christian, you believe in
Yeah,
God or
for
whatever.
sure.
But if my beliefs is, the two most important commandments, you know, to love God and to love others. So if by serving others, that's how you show love to God and that's how you show love to others, and then you feel good about yourself because you served others.
Bam.
Like it's this perfect
It
circle of
is.
everyone is being, you know,
Blessed.
blessed.
Yep.
So why do we have such a big, hang up about it? And that's something that I like, even this morning that I still struggled with. And I think that's, it's obviously human nature to not want people to do things for you that you think you should be able to do for yourself. And it maybe makes you feel, less. But I think thinking of things, differently, having a different, view about service. It's not that, yeah, if I could walk up the stairs myself and I'm like, hey, I'm so cool, Shayden, why don't you pick me up and carry me up the stairs,
Hmm.
that's a different story. And I know a lot of times in life, maybe people are looking to try to always get people to do something for them so they can get ahead. And that's not what we're talking about here. We're
Yeah.
talking about letting other people serve you so that they can feel good about themselves and it can ease your life a little bit. In return, you're serving other people and God's pleased with you, and then you feel good about who you are as a person. And then you've created this kind of snowball effect where you're continually feeling good about yourself and you're helping others feel good about themselves, and you feel this connection
Sure.
to God. So
Yeah. Gosh, too. As I think of most men, including myself, I mean, it's physical service is for sure the easiest thing for men to give,
yeah,
right? Sadly, though, words of encouragement are we're so in a drought. I mean, men just having words of encouragement is such a. I mean, it's something you just don't find anymore. And in a lot of ways, I shouldn't say that in such a black and white way, but so many men just they lack encouragement. And I think that it's because we're almost afraid. We know that it's vulnerable. It's vulnerable to give another guy a compliment. It's vulnerable to just show love. We're conditioned that might even be perceived as weak.
yeah,
And you know what I mean? And I think that's a step forward for a lot of guys in their growth is to, yeah, you can physically serve, which is great. But what about seeing people and then actually being willing to open your mouth and say something to another guy that might make you feel weak, might make you feel soft, if you will, when really it isn't. It's you actually changing yourself and possibly saving someone's life, because we know a lot of men,
yeah,
gosh, there's a lot of pain.
yeah.
Anyway,
I certainly agree with that. And vulnerability is certainly hard for, men, but I think that's something that, especially in my field, I know that, when you're a coach, you're usually thought of as you're, big and tough and you're
Hmm.
no nonsense, and really letting someone in and seeing who you are and being vulnerable is maybe perceived, especially in the old school ways, as a weakness. And I found that, my best connections I've had with players, and they've gone on and maybe performed, I think, better, and the team chemistry and the love and the unity on the team is is usually always better when I try to set an example
Yeah.
of being vulnerable. So, and I really try to, most every day, um, on my, phone, I text somebody some sort of encouraging words. And, to go back to what you're talking about, I can't remember the exact numbers and study, but how many negative words and criticizing words someone hears a day in comparison to a positive word, and what that really does to a person.
Yeah.
And, for us to really thrive, it should be like reversed. It should be that, my mom always taught me that sandwich technique, or whatever. Hey, if you're going to criticize someone, tell them something positive first, then you can criticize them, and then after, say something positive again. And I usually, do my best to do that. And, there's times that you get after someone. And, my brother actually, professor at Weber State, and we've talked a lot about this, and, what praise versus criticism does. And someone, if you praise them, will work a lot longer and care, like they'll care about the cause, and they'll be all in, and they'll work longer and better for you than if you criticize them. And when you criticize them, they'll work harder for this short period of time. And, maybe now and then you need to get after someone to quickly change a behavior, let them know maybe you're not pleased. But if that's the majority of how you um, try to lead somebody, that you're failing,
Yep.
that it needs to be, way more praise than it does criticism. Obviously, there's room for criticism. We have to make something better. You have to often criticize someone, tell them how to do it differently. Like, hey, this behavior effort's not accepted, but I think we could do it in a better way so that it doesn't feel so personal, that it feels
Sure.
like, hey, I care about you. What you're doing isn't correct. And in the long run, you're not going to be as happy. I need you to change that. And now and then, my team knows I can get a little
Hmm.
sharp and I can get after them.
Sure.
But I hope they know, and I
It's
do
love.
my best to have way more positive interactions with them than criticizing ones, so that they know that when I do criticize them, that's because we've built a relationship and I care about them, and that what they're doing, you know, isn't accepted to me. And I could do better at that. I still, I can go 0 to 10 pretty fast, and I have a very competitive streak, and I'm always trying to kind of keep it in check, because I know that, maybe sometimes that's not the best way to respond to somebody. And, that's an evolution, I think, as men, we're all trying to work on. How can
Yeah.
we be better dads and husbands and, workers, and demand things, and we want things to be right, and we want to be successful, but can we do it in a more compassionate and encouraging way?
Yeah. There's a balance, not a balance, I guess. I would say it's a discipline to the extent that my standards are for somebody is to the extent that my compassion has to also be there. And I know you and me, we absolutely are raised in the same way, in many same ways of it's absolutely a loving thing to have high standards for people that we care about. Like
Yeah,
I don't do you any good to treat you as fragile, to treat you as non-capable. I have to treat you with the standards and the belief that I see in you as who you can become and who you already are. But if I can't follow that up with the compassion to get you there, then I'm hurting you
yeah,
in a hard
no,
way, right? And that's where
great
we're
point,
at. It's like
great
we
point.
can't shame the gap between where I know you can be and where you are now. I have to have compassion, encouragement from where you were yesterday to where you are today. But then if I do see that there is something there, I can even compassionately push you, and it might feel like a criticism, but usually I like to define criticism as different than feedback, right? Like criticism is more oftentimes punishing as opposed to just feedback,
Yeah,
and accountability is like calling out behavior for because I know you can do better. But
yeah, I can't remember the exact same, but it's something like, if you really love somebody, you'll tell them the truth, and even if that might be,
yeah,
negative feedback. And if you love yourself, then you'll tell them what they want to hear. So, finding that balance of, hey, I'm going to tell you the truth,
Yeah.
and I'm going to try to do it in a way that you is receptive to you, and I'm going to make sure that it, you know, has compassion, and I follow up with, love and encouragement. But I'm not going to just always, tell you what you want to hear because I think I'm being nice. So I think finding that, balance in life, is really important, as a leader, as a man, and just someone that's trying to, help other people out and truly help them,
Yeah,
and not just give lip service to them.
for sure. All right, man. No crying on this one. Just
Yeah.
kidding. So if your sons asked you,
I want to see
yep,
Aaron trying to make me cry.
I know, man. Awesome sons. If your sons asked you what it means to be a man, what are a few things you would tell them? Take your time.
Yeah. Man, there's a lot there. Yeah. So that's a difficult one. Um, I think I would first start with some sort of saying that goes like this: how you treat the person or people that can do absolutely nothing for you and you don't need speaks a lot about who you are. You know, as a man. So, you know, whether it's the star quarterback or the third string JV, kicker, or whether it's, your athletic director or it's the janitor. I think a real man doesn't treat people differently according to their status or what they can do for them. They, try to treat all people with some sort of respect and, kindness. And I certainly got to remind myself of that when I'm coaching and officials, because I get fired up, or, opposing coaches or teams. And, I think we have this built-in kind of tribalism that it's like, us against whoever, and we love all our guys and they can never do anything wrong, and the other guys are the enemy. And that has its place, and that's fun. But the truth is that that's not the real truth. The truth is that, you know, we should treat people better with respect. I think it's certainly with, women, and I don't, you get a little worried about how that's going in society these days. How you can immediately tell, I think, about a person a lot, how they treat their wife,
Yeah.
how they treat their kids, how they treat their mother, their mother-in-law, their sister, how they treat women in general. I think says a lot about, a man as well. So I'd probably start with those two things. Um, and I don't know, give me some feedback there.
No, I love that. That first one for sure resonated deeply for me. My dad was, uh, I guess I just feel like bringing him up. His death day was last week, and it's been 18
Um,
years, and
I'm sorry to hear that.
yeah, I mean it was special, and it's become very beautiful actually
Good.
to take his life and how he endured it, and as a way of replication and adoration, adulation, and so that's what he showed me. That's what he taught. Like he delivered mail every day in the terrace and walked about 11 miles a day, and until he got his driving route towards the end of his career. But at his funeral, we had to go 2 hours over his funeral because there were just lines out the door, and I was like, Mom, who are all these people? And she's like, well, it's pretty much Washington Terrace at
Yeah.
his funeral, because he'd take the time to talk, and he would show anybody that the stranger didn't exist to him. And ironically, I actually think a lot of the ALS community replicates that type of man.
Yeah.
You see a lot of people like that, and I'd love that. I'd love for that to be how we all could treat each other. That strangers don't exist, and we do. We need to
Yeah.
treat people the way that Savior would, and that's the challenge of the day, because we're in our own minds and in our own stuff. But yeah, I love that.
And I do think kind of on the opposite end, there's, you hear this attack on, toxic masculinity or whatever. but I do think there's part of a man. My mom had a. I think I've said this before, on maybe another podcast, and I can't remember exactly how the quote went, but my mom was, obviously, as you can see, big on the quotes and things.
Yeah.
I mean, she used to give me money if I would memorize them and all
Oh
that,
yeah,
and
that's cool.
you'd mock it, and you didn't really care about it. It's like, oh, I'm 51 years old, and I can still remember that. But there was something there about, there's nothing as strong as real gentleness, and nothing as gentle as real strength. And there's definitely a time as a man to be fierce and to be tough,
Hmm.
and hey, go do hard things and stand up for people. And if we didn't have men fighting wars and being firemen and policemen and doing all these hard jobs, and like your dad getting out and walking all day to serve your family,
Yep.
then the world would be a worse place. And I don't think that that's toxic at all. I
No.
think being that tough guy that's going to look out for other people, and sometimes you need to maybe raise your voice to do it, or you need to get a little you know masculine to do it. That I understand that there's a balance there, and then that's also part of being a man. But I think that the world for a long time maybe think, well, that's the only thing about part of being a man. And no, like there's this softer, more vulnerable and compassionate side that's important too. But having a balance of those to me is really being a man. And I think you can figure out when you should not be that.
Yeah.
I think we're smart enough to know, yeah, who needs help and who needs maybe
Yeah.
put in their place a little bit. And certainly, I know that one thing that I could do a better job of is when I do get into that, you know, masculine mode, that I could probably go there a little slower. I don't need to go there as quick as I do. I could be a little, less.
Yeah.
What's the word I'm looking for? Confrontational. Um, but we live and we learn. And, reflect on your actions, and you try to get better. But I do think in some ways that attack on that side also bothers me as well,
Yeah.
because I think there needs to be a balance there of that gentleness and strength.
Yeah. I'll go in on that a little bit. I differentiate masculinity in men very much. I love the movie Beauty and the Beast. I've mentioned it on the podcast before, but it's one of my favorites, like of all time, which is crazy because I love sports shows too. But Beauty and the Beast is truly a genius story because it is a story of both a man, Gaston, and Beast. And Beast is true masculinity, actually, and Gaston is not. Gaston is what most of us men in our tribe would
Yeah,
say, no, dude, you don't belong. That's not masculinity. You're just being a man that uses people, that has no insight, that has no awareness. You're all about you, and you think that everybody worships you. That is not masculine. That's what's toxic. But masculinity in it can't actually be toxic. That's the irony to me, is that Satan's attacking masculinity. There's no toxic femininity. There's no toxic homosexuality. There's no toxic anything else. The only phrase in this world that has the word toxic in front of it right now is masculinity, and it's not okay actually fundamentally, because masculinity is sensitive. It is gentle. That's what the beast learns. But Belle would never have been attracted to Beast in the first place if he was weak. That's what got her. She loves the fact that he is strong, but then she says, "You got to control your temper," and he does. And who does he do it for? Her. And that's one of the greatest gifts that she ever received, is that he controlled himself for her, not necessarily changed, but controlled himself for her. But his masculinity actually protected her from the wolves. It protected her in many ways from multiple things. It gave her safety to be herself, and without it she wouldn't be able to be herself. There's a really cool part in the movie. You got me going on this. There's a really cool part in the movie where he lets her go, and that's when the wolves come, and he sees it. He looks in the mirror and like sees her in trouble, so he like goes and saves her, and the wolves get him and rips him open, and then she's trying to help him with it. Well, not too long after in the movie is when they're actually out in a similar area of the castle during the day. And this is where this like famous song comes in, of where she looks at him and she's like, "There's something sweet and almost kind." And here she is, she's out in the same place where wolves had been, or a similar place where the wolves had been, and she's throwing seeds out to the birds. Like, that's a female being feminine in a place of complete relaxation. Why? Because he's standing right behind her,
yeah,
because he knows how to be masculine but he's choosing to be gentle with her. And that is one of the greatest tokens of love we can show. And the Savior's the same way. God's the same way. Like he could destroy. He has all power. So why not love? And that's our journey as men. And that's why I think that's why women and or feminine too and the masculine go together. They can't be separated because they help each other. They help a woman helps me to learn how to be gentle, and give her that safety. And she holds me accountable to it too
Yeah.
in a really good way when I step over and lose a little bit of that control.
Yeah,
So
no, thanks to that, Shane.
yeah.
I haven't watched that show forever, and
Yeah,
I'm
go
about to
rewatch
go
it.
rewatch it, and with a different point of view, and
Dude, I
yeah,
weep.
I
I like
think you're
weep every
spot
time.
on right there, and I think probably to me the biggest attack in culture today is on the family, and I think that attack is mainly coming at
Yeah.
the man and the head of the family and the breakup of the family, and what that does to society and to mental health and to kids, and just that the snowball effect in a negative way from that. In fact, I read an article, and I think this could be true of most things. It was talking about continuing on in your religious beliefs, but it was if the man stays you know faithful in the religion and continues to go to church, that the children 93% of the time will do that as well. And if it's the woman who does it and the man doesn't, it's like 17%. So, yeah, I mean, like to me, religious beliefs and going to church is important. Maybe to someone else that's not. And I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to make that comparison. But I think it shows how important the influence of a good father is on children in a good way.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Absolutely.
not and obviously women have their role, and it's a very important role, and equally as important, and in many ways maybe more difficult and more loving and more serving. But I think as men we need to look at ourselves and accept that role and have that accountability that, hey, yeah, like you know I'm important to my wife's mental health and to my kids and to their future and to society. And it's not just about me trying to be better so I feel better about myself. I need to be better
Yep.
for all these people that are looking to me.
Yeah. Gosh, man. It's so cool. I just read this other article too that said the husband or the husband loving the wife in the home allows for the child to see that there's a relationship beyond his own with his mother. And when he can see that there's actually another relationship, it changes him in a great way to know I have to actually back out a little bit and it's a strange way from the mother child relationship, and that creates a healthy bond. When there is no father, they actually in the research they call it a parasitic connection, where the mother sometimes in her own single mother stress can actually then become the one who's being taken care of by the child, and that relationship then becomes parasitic because now the kid who needed her to take care of him or her is taking care of her. And without a father, it happens very easily. And it was really remarkable to read, and that's just one little thing. But yes, fatherhood, when it dies, ooh, we're in trouble. So, and that's why I think that word to me is so toxic. Like the only thing toxic about it is that word. So,
Can you still hear me?
yeah,
Okay. You were kind of coming in and out, but it's fine because I mean I could just hear you without the
okay,
headphones on. But
yeah. Well, feel like we're good today. Anything
yeah,
else you want to
like
say?
yeah, whatever you want to go
I'm
to.
going to push you one more time.
Yeah, go
It
ahead.
doesn't have, I know you got, I think you got to be, but you got Sky here. And I want to take a minute and just have you look at her and
No, don't do it.
I know. And just say something to her that you want recorded, that you want. I know we're doing this also because we want to record and have your voice.
Yeah, yeah, you can't do that to me.
Yes, I
She
can.
sees me cry all the time, but I actually had the opportunity to recently say something to her that I would have like a week or so to think about. It was a short amount of time. It was just gonna be like a minute, but something I was gonna say to her. And like I like to joke that she was chosen as caregiver of the year because she really is. But there was a cool group that kind of celebrated caregivers, and I wanted to be the one to introduce her
Mm.
and had opportunity to maybe say a few things, about her. And so, she already knows how amazing she is and how much I love her because I tell her all the time and she gets sick of it. But in there was, one part of it. It was that, we have a saying. On my shirt today, you Thompson Tough. And I had someone once ask me, well, what does Thompson Tough mean to you? And, I had a little more time to think about it this time. And I told Sky that Thompson Tough means, that I love you more. And not that I love you more, than you love me, but that I love, my wife, the amazing, lovely Sky, more than the hardest days that we've had, more than the hardest days that will come, and more today, than I did yesterday. And I'm so grateful that I have a testimony and a belief system that we get to be together forever. And does a lot of what we're dealing with right now suck? Yes. And in many ways, because we're doing this shared suffering, we're closer than we've ever been. And if you look at eternity, and if life on earth is 1 second compared to eternity, how grateful that I am that we get to go through this together, so that when we do get to eternity, that we're much farther along in really being able to see each other, understand each other, love each other in a better way. And, Thompson Tough babe. So
Love that. Love it. Our experiences and our attributes, I think I said that to you. Our experiences and our attributes are the currency of the next world. You're making some good money.
Well, trying my best, definitely.
All right. Well, thanks for being here.
All right, thanks, Shayden. We'll see how you do getting down me these stairs
Yeah, man.
here today. But
We'll see you guys next time.
all right.